Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today, guys, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and, what's been going on with the price action, what we think is going to happen next, and all that wonderful stuff. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Okay, let's make a start with this, right? And we're going to break things down a little bit. So we kind of normally do these kind of videos at 3 p.m, but we saw this kind of spike to the downside, this wick here, at about 1 o'clock. So I wanted to give it a bit more time before kind of giving everyone an update as to what I think is going on. Just wanted to kind of see how things were going to react. Now, for those who are members of the Patreon services, you'll know, specifically if you're into kind of the trader tier, that we actually shorted Bitcoin up here, right? And we basically entered this short position, and we actually had kind of take profit one here. That was okay. We got that one. We bounced up a little bit. We came back down, and our second take profit was down here at 18,650 approximately. And what we can do is we can see that we actually moved down and we took that out. Actually, it's 650. It was 685. Sorry, it was about here. Okay, so we obviously this wick down was actually really beneficial for us, but it wasn't really what I was expecting to happen. I wasn't expecting this move to the downside to occur this fast. I was expecting, a move up into our yellow box area before we actually saw this retracement. So although it was great, we kind of got some profit. It was completely unexpected. And so I want to give it just a little bit of time before kind of doing this video. And, for the most part, this is people will call these wicks all sorts of things. I mean, for the easiest part, you can argue this is a scam wick, right? We went all the way down there, liquidated loads of people, and then rallied back up. Now, if we think about this logically, essentially what this has kind of meant is that they basically liquidated out all of those long positions and then pushed the price up, right? So the price was going to go up. But before they pushed the price up, they wanted to make sure that no one could benefit from it other than themselves. So they grabbed the liquidity here and then pushed it back up. This was very, very quick. And this is why leverage is sometimes incredibly risky. Now, obviously, we do use a little bit of leverage every now and again, specifically within the kind of short-term trades and things like that, like shorting the market in this particular move, when it makes sense to do so. And going long also kind of makes sense to a degree. And we kind of did a pretty good move on Cardano's 𝗕𝗔𝗊 today. But essentially, with these with leverage, you get these kind of scenarios where they can take advantage of you and you can get wiped out if you haven't got good risk management. And I think that's really what this wick is telling us, essentially, that basically there was a lot of liquidity down here that they could grab and then they could move the price back to the upside. They don't want to just push the price up and lose out on some of the other liquidity, so they basically grab it and move it. So this wick is interesting. It's interesting for multiple different reasons, but that's kind of the main one I'm looking at. This isn't the first time we've seen such a wick. We also see them down here as well, just before we actually had this really good run to the upside, right? So not too surprising. Now, the other thing that I was focusing in on, I actually recorded a video and I kind of pulled it just about, an hour or so beforehand, because I was looking at this area here, and we were saying, in that particular video that I didn't put out in the end, was basically we're looking at this as areas of good demand coming in, right? As in, this is where all the buyers were. And then, we're looking very, very good all the way up to this point here, and then bam, we had this move and then we come back up again. So it's very much a strange wick. It's definitely something that I don't think is natural by any stretch of the imagination. And we break this down a little bit further, we can kind of say, okay, we've gone down in 3 waves over here, for example, 1, 2, and 3, and we can kind of see that coming in. So we've gone 3 up, 3 down, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense for the 5-wave structure this side. So my next expectation here is that this could be an expanding flat, which would be 3, 3, 5. We'd have to go up in 5 waves for that to work, and I'm not so sure that's really something that we're seeing here either. So I may have done something incorrect somewhere along this line, and I need to find out where that potentially went wrong. That being said, there is nothing unusual about this move to the downside, and if we do start to rally up here and it's outside of this, and maybe I just need to readjust wave 4 and wave 5, we could argue that maybe this is all a part of a bigger play on a slightly larger scale, right? 5 down, 3 up, 5 down, if I move that 4th and 5th wave into suiting these positions. I still don't like this end though. It is clearly 3 waves, and really wave 5 should be 5 waves. So I'm not entirely certain at this point in time what this looks like. So I'm watching out to see whether or not we have 5-wave structure to the upside. Now, if I just find some empty space up here, when I talk about these expanding flats, essentially what you have is you have this kind of 3-wave structure moving up. You then have a 3-wave structure moving down that goes down lower than this origin here. And then this can only end in 5 waves, where we then move up here, and you can basically, if I draw a trend line, see this as an expansion, okay, from the original kind of 3-wave move like this, right? So it's 3, 3, 5, and they call it an expanding flat. Now, the other way that this also works is something called a running flat. Same scenario to start with, but the 5 waves fall short. Let me actually just draw these in like this, and I'll just pull this back down a fraction more, right? And this is called a running flat because the 5th wave fails to go higher than this C wave high point on this side. Okay, so basically it's a running flat. It was going for an expansion, but fails to do so. Okay, so in both of those scenarios, if we've got this kind of 5-wave count coming down, and 3, then 3, we're looking for 5 in both scenarios. I didn't see 5 just yet, so we'll have to pay close attention to what that looks like and what that might turn into a little bit further down the line. So I'm obviously going to be live again on Twitch tomorrow morning, and for anyone who is interested in the Twitch stream from this morning, then I'll link that in the description down below. But I'll be live tomorrow morning on Twitch, where hopefully I'll have a little bit more data to be a little bit more accurate over what I think is going to be going on right within this little area here. At the moment, not overly clear if it is an expanding flat or not, or whether or not there's some kind of other corrective structures going on here that I'm just not yet seeing. So there's a few things to kind of be a little bit cautious on. Okay, so for now we are where we are. We're not going to get too kind of carried away with it. That being said, we can of course acknowledge the stochastic RSI, our momentum indicator, and what that's telling us as well. On this hourly chart, we are now overbought. Okay, so from this angle, we would look at this and think, okay, we've got some kind of short-term corrective move to the downside. Now, when I look at this structure and I think about where this is likely to be, we obviously have this yellow box that I drew on earlier today, being our clear area of support. So if we are to retrace any, we're probably going to be retracing into this range before we can then talk about that next move to the upside. If this is going to be 5 waves or 3 waves or whatever it may be, it should be quite clear within here. Now, as you can see from the 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏 SRSI indicator, we're overbought on the 1 hour, but not the 4. We're oversold on the 8 hour, but not the daily, and not the weekly. But we are oversold on the monthly. But that's been the case for quite some time. Now, if we come over into the 4-hourly chart, we can see that we're progressing to the upside reasonably well. So we could end up, over the weekend just trading sideways and becoming overbought on these timeframes, or we could have that correction and we can kind of, continue this move to the upside afterwards. On the 8-hourly chart, plenty of room for growth. So, that's looking pretty positive. And the daily is not too bad either. The weekly obviously is about midway through. So things are starting to heat up here, but they're not quite where you want them to be necessarily. So, either way, like I said with the XRP video that we did today, I think the market's ready for a move to the upside. We're seeing this move to the upside right now with some pretty decent percentages across some of these different altcoins. Whether some people choose not to acknowledge them or not, I mean, I put the Cardano video out this morning, and some of the comments on the video were just laughable, but nonetheless, they are what they are. We've seen the fallout of what happened after I did that video, right? So you can kind of go back and cross-reference those if you want. My point here is that the market is kind of ready to kind of have a bit of a relief rally. How long that's going to last, I do not know. I can't time the market, but it does look like we need to have a bit of a push to the upside. It just depends on how much they want to kind of push it. And I say they because I think this is kind of market makers kind of showing their hand to a degree. But I do think that there's going to be some natural corrections on this journey as well. I don't think we've finished with our moves to the downside. I know that splits opinions, but we have got this 5-wave structure here, and this 5-wave structure tells me that I'm still looking for a 5-wave structure of the same level to finish that off. Now, I thought maybe we had started something, but maybe we haven't. And if I take that and just move that well over here for a second, the other way of looking at this is that because we've got the stochastic RSIs looking reasonably well, we could be looking at something like this, and we just come back up to this little higher area and then have this 5-wave drop coming down a little bit deeper. So ultimately things are looking okay. I just can't really quite place where everything is going at this particular point in time. I wouldn't want to rule this one out completely. This one actually seems like a pretty logical one considering where we are with the stochastic RSIs. Don't really like this structure in the middle here though, and it would need to end in 5 waves, and whether I have to adjust things to allow that, I obviously can. 535, completing this kind of B wave before we rally up into this C wave higher. And again, once that's done, then we can talk about breaking down. This is the only scenario that I can see where we actually have a slightly higher time frame move upwards. that will allow us to account for our daily and our 8-hourly stochastic RSIs, for example. So when it comes to momentum, this is the one that I think is probably the one that's going to play out, but nothing moves in straight lines, so be a little bit cautious with that. Okay, I'm just going to mark and put this back over here for now, because, you know, this is an important one that we want to keep an eye on. Whether this is correct or not, we don't know yet. Okay, so we're going to leave it there for now. Now, the other thing that's worth kind of noting is, you know, what is the sentiment feeling like, right? Because generally speaking, the market moves against the majority. So if the majority goes short, then you expect the price to go upwards, right? And we were kind of talking about this on the stream this morning. Now, in the last 5 minutes, it is what it is. But if we just move this to the 15-minute time frame, you can see that if it updates, there we go. We're about 54% sentiment going long, and that's quite interesting. But if we bring it up to an hour, where does that sit? It's actually about 50% short and 49.94% going long. So again, you know, pretty reasonably split there. Now on the 5-minute chart, 52% going long. So the sentiment at the moment, according to some of these levels, is swinging slightly more towards bullish than bearish. And we just check this one. So it's reasonably close, though. It's a pretty close call as to knowing exactly which one's going to go. But at the moment, looking at it, I'd say that there probably are too many people going on the bullish side of things, and therefore a reversal is probably likely to happen. Okay, so we obviously want to do whatever the opposite of what the market kind of tells us. So here you can see there's some short positions still available for grabs, and you can see some of these long positions and where they've opened up. So yeah, some people are potentially opening themselves up to a little bit of risk around this middle area. All of this here, I do think, is something that was going to get taken out if they do not close their positions. Then I do think these are all going to be liquidated soon enough, as I do think we are heading up into this yellow box area. The only question becomes on what structure we're doing it. So yeah, keeping a close eye on that. I think there isn't a huge amount of liquidity here in the immediate vicinity, but I do think there's going to be some liquidations for sure. Okay, but yeah, for now, that's kind of what I have on on Bitcoin here. I'm going to obviously see how things kind of go over the night, and then obviously be live on Twitch tomorrow morning to kind of talk a little bit more around kind of the price action of what is going on with BTC. But for now, I think that's going to wrap it up. So if you found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will stay up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.